Hi, everyone. This is Kristen Hilty from Making Math Make Sense. Today, we're going to focus on how to help your kids create a visual when working on elapsed time word problems. Elapsed time is something that every family can work on at home in grades 3, 4, and 5. This is a concept that our kids continue to struggle with, and we see presented to them throughout the entire school year. So, one of the best ways to help them calculate how much time has gone from one point in time to another is to have them create a number line and using that to show the period of time that we're talking about. So I have given you 5 different word problems. I centered them all around this coronavirus pandemic that we've all been living through. And we're going to use these so that I can show you a couple different ways that this could look. So the first problem we're going to work on today, during the coronavirus at-home schooling, Mrs. Capel gets on her computer at 7 o'clock in the morning. She works until her kids get out of bed at 10:15 a.m. How long does she work in the morning? So my question that I'm looking for is, how long does Mrs. Capel work on her computer in the morning? So I want kids to find the question and think about, what is it that we have to answer? We want to know the period of time Mrs. Capel is working on her computer in the morning. What we want them to do here is draw a number line. So I'm going to draw my number line, and I'm going to put my arrows moving in both directions. And I'm going to look at the information I know. I know what time she starts, and I know what time she ends. So over here on the left-hand side, I'm going to go ahead and put her beginning time, which we know is 7 o'clock a.m. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to check off that information because we went ahead and we used it. So we showed where to place it, we put a check mark over it. I also know that she continues to work until 10:15 in the morning. So over here on the right-hand side, I'm going to go ahead and label that 10:15 a.m. and I'm going to check off that information because I've used that. Now what I want to do on my number line is I want to see how far is it from 7 in the morning until 10:15 in the morning. So what we're going to have our kids do is we're going to have them make what we call jumps. Now some of your children are going to be able to jump all the way from 7 o'clock all the way over here to where they think it would be 10 o'clock. That's perfectly fine. Most of our kids, especially when they're learning how to do elapsed time, can't make that big of a jump. So what we're going to do is I could go ahead and I could make a jump from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and label that 8 o'clock. And I know that that here is a distance of 1 hour. From 8 o'clock, I can make another jump over to what I think would be 9 o'clock. And that also is a distance of 1 hour. From 9 o'clock, I can jump another hour to get myself over here to 10 o'clock, and I should be putting AMs underneath these. And I know that that is also a distance of 1 hour. Now that I'm at 10 o'clock, some of your children might need to do little jumps of 5 minutes, and they could do 5, 10, 15. Some of them can just do a smaller jump here, and they know that that is a distance of 15 minutes. Now you can see how I label my hour and how I label my minutes. Now what we need to do is we need to calculate how much time passed. I can put my hours together, and I can see that that is a distance of 3 hours. And then I have my 15 minutes. So Mrs. Capel worked for 3 hours and 15 minutes in the morning, putting that together. Now, if you look at question number 2, I built off of that one here, but now what I said is today she decided to take a break from 8:15 until 8:45. How long did she work today? So on this specific day, she worked for 3 hours and 15 minutes. What I want to know here is if she puts a break in there, now how long did she work? Some kids will be able to go ahead and do that math and figure out that this is 30 minutes and go ahead and subtract it. But what would this look like if we were to put this on a number line like we did here? My question is, how long does she work today? And I have to use my information from back here in question 1 to begin to build this out. So I'm also going to go ahead and draw my number line here. And I know that her starting time was 7 o'clock in the morning. So I'm going to go ahead and put that starting time back here again. And I know that our ending time is still 10:15 in the morning. So I know that she still ends at that time. So now what I want to do is I know that I have to put this break in here from 8:15 to 8:45. Well, I know I can still jump from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So I'm still going to go ahead and do that jump here. And I know that that is still 1 hour. But now I have to pay attention to this right here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a small jump from 8 to 8:15. And I know she's still working during that time. So I'm going to go ahead and put that 15 minutes right here. Now I can check this information off because I put that on there. And I know that this break lasts until 8:45. So I know that that's 8:45 when her break ends. So I can go ahead and I can put that here. Now, it really doesn't matter in this situation how long this time is, just the fact that I put this break on here. So I don't want to put that time above there because that's not part of the time that she worked. From 8:45, what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to make another 15-minute jump here to show that that gets me to 9 o'clock in the morning. So this I'm going to label as my 15-minute jump to get me back over to 9. Now from 9 o'clock, I continue to do my hour jump again. And that's going to get me over here to 10 o'clock in the morning. And I know that that's 1 hour. And then I can do my 15-minute jump again to get me over here to my 10:15. So now when I look at putting this together, I see that I have an hour here and I have an hour here. So I can go ahead and put that together for 2 hours. And now I have my 15 minutes, my 15 minutes, and my 15 minutes. Now, some kids might need to write this out and put 15 plus 15 plus 15. And some might combine this together to get us to 30. And then our 30 plus our 15 to get us over here to our 45. So I can see she worked 2 hours, 45 minutes. I could have them calculate. I could add, again, an additional question. What is the difference in the time she worked on this day to this day here? And we can see that 30-minute difference, which is what was represented right here on that break piece that we had. All right, we're going to move into a different type of a problem. And now we're going to get to where we might need to use some multiple number lines to help us see what's going on here. Part of the problem with a word problem like this is all of the reading that is required to take place here. And that's where kids get into trouble. So how can we chunk this up a little bit to make it a little bit easier to start thinking about? Let's go ahead and read through the whole problem first. Brett woke up at 9 o'clock a.m. to start his online learning. He worked until 10:30 a.m. After he ate breakfast, he went back to work at 10:50 a.m. His lunch was ready at 12 o'clock. 40 minutes later, he went outside to play for 30 minutes. At that point, he went back to working on his schoolwork for another 1 hour and 15 minutes. What time did Brett stop working on his schoolwork for the day, and how much time did he spend working? So here we have two questions that we need to answer. What time did Brett stop working on his schoolwork for the day, and how much time did he spend working? So we have two different questions that we're answering. Let's go and let's just start with the very first thing we know. We know that Brett wakes up at 9 o'clock to start his online learning. Let's go ahead and let's just make a number line to represent that. We know, and I'm going to actually make this one smaller because I'm going to do some calculations over here because I'm going to break this up a little bit. He wakes up at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to go ahead and label that 9 o'clock in the morning. Check off that information. This is where checking off what you've used is really going to come in handy so that kids can see what information they still have left to work with. He worked until 10:30 a.m. So we know that this is complete work time here. He worked until 10:30 a.m. I might over here label this as work because he worked during that whole time. After he ate breakfast, he went back to work at 10:50. So we know he goes back to work. So we're going to make this number line start at 10:50. We know he goes back to work and his lunch was ready at 12. So we know that that one goes until 12 o'clock. So again, this is another work one that he does here. And I can check off my 10:50 and I can check off my 12 o'clock. 40 minutes later, he went outside to play for 30 minutes. So now we have to figure out how much time passes here. 40 minutes later, he went outside to play for 30 minutes. Well, if his lunch was ready at noon, 40 minutes later, we know that that's going to be 12:40. So this bar we're going to put here at 12:40. Check off my 40 minutes later. He went outside to play for 30 minutes. Well, at this point, I need to figure out what time that's going to get me to. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do, I know he played for 30 minutes. So if I'm at 12:40, I'm going to jump 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, because I know that that's going to be 30 minutes. So if I do my jumps 12:40 and 10 minutes, that gets me to 12:50. 12:50 in 10 minutes is going to get me to 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock in 10 minutes gets me to 1:10. All right, so we know that that's at 1:10. At that point, he goes back to working on his schoolwork. I'm going to go ahead and add another sheet of paper underneath here so I can continue to make these. So at that point, he goes back to working on his schoolwork. I'm going to draw another number line here. We know this is 1:10 p.m. And I can check that off for another 1 hour and 15 minutes. So we have to do a 1 hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and draw that 1 hour jump. And then I'm going to do a 5, 10, 15 minutes. So that's going to get me my 15, these would each be 5s. 5, 5, and 5. So that gets me that 1 hour and 15 minutes. So what I want to know is, what time is it right here? Because that's what time he stopped working on the schoolwork. And then I want to know, how much time did he spend working? Well, if we remember, this here wasn't actually work. So I'm not going to label that one work, but I am going to label this one work because that's when he went back to work again over here. If I fill this in, 1:10 in 1 hour, that's going to get me to 2:10. And now I have to do my 5-minute jumps. This is going to get me to 2:15, 2:20. This over here is going to get me to 2:25 p.m. So he stops working at 2:25 p.m. So we're able to answer that question. Now we have to figure out, how much time did he spend working? So you can see there's a couple different ways I had to work through this one. I drew my number lines, but some of them I went ahead and put my jumps on. And some of these I haven't calculated the time for yet. This one, I know he worked for 1 hour, 15 minutes. I know that one. I have to figure out this one here, 9 to 10:30. Well, I can go ahead and do my jump from 9 to 10 o'clock. I know that's 1 hour. And then this is going to be 30 minutes. So this amount of time was 1 hour, 30 minutes. 10:50 to 12 o'clock. Well, I'm going to start at 10:50 and I'm going to jump 10 minutes to get me to 11 o'clock. And then I can do my hour jump to get me from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock. So I know that that one is 1 hour, 10 minutes. So now when I look at all my work that I have over here, I can go ahead, I can put my hours together, and I know my hours here are 3 hours. And my 15 minutes and my 10 minutes, I might start with that and put that together for 25 minutes. So now if I have 30 minutes and 25 minutes, I can put that together for 3 hours, 55 minutes. As I said, that one was more of a complex one because we had a lot of different parts working within that one there. It's a great way to have your kids calculate their schedule, have them do their beginning time, have them do their ending time, where do you take breaks for lunch. So this is a fun one that you can kind of play with at your own house and have your kids calculate how much time do they spend on e-learning a day, or how much time do they get to play outside if you have them playing outside in multiple variables. Any place that you can think of to calculate that elapsed time, it's really going to help that skill. Your teachers will really appreciate that. All right, this number 4 is again a little bit of a different type of a problem here. Taylor went to babysit for a nurse. She arrived at her house at 2:30 p.m. and left at 11 o'clock p.m. How much time did she spend babysitting? And if she earned $8 per hour, how much did she make? So we have another 2-part question. How much time did she spend babysitting? And if she earned $8 per hour, how much money did she make? Well, first, let's answer that first question. How much time does she spend babysitting? Let's go ahead and draw our number line. And we can put her beginning time of 2:30 and her ending time of 11 o'clock. We can check off the information we used. So 2:30 until 11 o'clock. Well, 2:30, I'm going to go ahead and do my half-hour jump here. Some kids might want to jump on that, just start jumping hourly, and they might jump hourly from 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, and then do their 30-minute jump. There's nothing wrong with that. I just like to get to the even hour as soon as I can. So that's why I do that jump first. But either way that kids see to do it, perfectly fine. Now, 3 o'clock, I'm trying to get all the way over to 11 o'clock. Well, I know that from 3 o'clock, I'm actually going to jump to 10 because I like working with that number 10. So I'm going to jump over here to 10 o'clock. Could you do hourly jumps between here? Yes, absolutely. But I know from 3 o'clock to 10 o'clock, I know that that is 7 hours. So then from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, that gives me a nice 1 hour jump here. I can now put that time together and I can see that Taylor worked for 8 hours, 30 minutes for that nurse. Our second part of the question, if she earned 8 hours, $8 per hour, how much did she make? Well, what makes this tricky here is we do have this 30 minutes that she worked over here. So I know that she worked 8 hours at $8 an hour. So I know I can calculate that. If she works 8 hours for $8 an hour, I know that she made $64 for that part. Now we have this 30 minutes. Well, she's not going to make $8 for that 30 minutes. So we now have to think. She has this half hour here. So for that half hour, how much would she learn, or how much would she earn? So we have to do that $8 divided in half. So we know that for that part, she makes $4. Now I can put that together and Taylor earned a total of $68 while she babysat for that nurse. Now, if I really knew Taylor well, I would tell you Taylor actually did that for free to babysit for that nurse because they have been doing so much great work for us lately. All right. Our last question is about everybody's favorite doctor right now, Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci was flying to visit hardworking doctors and nurses. He boarded his plane at 11 a.m. The flight lasted 2 hours and 15 minutes. When he landed, it took him 20 minutes to get his luggage and 35 minutes to drive to the hospital. What time was it when he arrived at the hospital, and how much time did it take him to get to the hospital? All right, what time was it when he arrived at the hospital? How much time did it take him to get to the hospital? I promise you your sheet has the he on it, that my sheet does not. All right, so Dr. Fauci was flying. So again, we have another 2-part question. He was flying to visit hardworking doctors and nurses. There's no information in that sentence that I need to use. He boarded his plane at 11 a.m. He boarded his plane at 11 a.m. That's my starting point for the day. So right here, 11 o'clock a.m. starting point. The flight lasted 2 hours and 15 minutes. Okay, let's show that. 1 hour, 2 hours, 15 minutes. So I can label that 1 hour, 15 minutes. Let's go ahead and figure out what time that is. So 11 o'clock, this is now going to get me to 12 o'clock p.m. This is why you want to have your kids labeling that a.m. p.m. so we can see when we jump from one to the other. From here, we have another hour. That gets me to 1 o'clock p.m. 15 minutes. That gets me to 1:15. So 2 hours, 15 minutes. We know it's now 1:15. When he landed, it took him 20 minutes to get his luggage. Ooh, 20 minutes to get his luggage. Well, I'm going to actually, since I'm at 1:15, I'm going to break that 20 up into 15 and 5. Why am I going to do that? Because I know if I do 15 minutes here, that's going to get me to 1:30, and then I just have to do a little 5-1 here, and that's going to get me to 1:35 p.m. So I can break that up in intervals that make sense to me. Took him 20 minutes to get his luggage and 35 minutes to drive to the hospital. 35 minutes to drive to the hospital. Well, I'm at 1:35 here. I'm actually going to do 10 minutes because that's going to get me to 1:45. And then I'm going to do another 15 minutes because that gets me to 2 o'clock. And I know this here is 25 minutes, but I have to go 35. That's going to leave me with another 10 minutes to do here, which gets me to 2:10 p.m. And I can check off that 35 minutes here. What time was it when he arrived to the hospital? Look, we just figured that out. It's 2:10 when he arrived at the hospital. How much time did it take him to get to the hospital? Well, now that's where we have to go back and count all of our increments here. What I see is easy. What jumps out to me right off the bat is I can put these together right here, and I know that that gets me to 2 hours. So what some kids will do is they'll take what they have here, which is what I was starting to do, and add all of it together. That's perfectly fine. Another thing we can do is I could actually draw a second bar underneath here, and I know that this is 11 o'clock. Didn't really have to draw it as far as I did, but I went ahead and did that. And this is 2:10. What I can do now is I can jump from 11 to 12. That gets me to 12 o'clock. And now I can go from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And that's 2 hours. And then I have this right here, which is 10 minutes. And now, do you see how that's a lot easier to put together to answer that second question? So what I needed to do, and I had to figure out what time this was going to be first before I could do any of this work. Absolutely, I could go through and I could count up all of the ways that I broke it up in that one. It's still going to get me the same answer of 3 hours and 10 minutes. But for my mind visually, it was a lot easier for me to redraw that and just calculate that time out. And I can see that that is now 3 hours, 10 minutes. Again, elapsed time, it's a skill that can be worked on throughout, at home. It's not something that we just have to work on at school. When you tell your kids to go outside and play for 25 minutes, have them look at the clock. You have to come inside in 25 minutes. Tell me, what time do you need to come inside? Or if I want you to be back inside at 4:15 and it's 3:40 right now, how long can you go outside and play? Ask your kids questions like that. Have them calculate how much time, if you're running errands, how much time did you spend at each store? How much time did you spend all together running those errands? So this is a life skill that we do use over time, and that is why it is important that our kids do learn how to do that. I hope you enjoy this. Any questions that you have, please don't hesitate to put in the comment section, and we will be sure to answer those for you. Have a great day.